Aaron's greatest risk to the United States is the threat of deadly rip currents.
If you're caught in a rip current, the most important thing is to not panic.
And should you consider buying hurricane insurance?
Over $2 billion in insured losses from Milton.
Plus the very real wildfire risk that still threatens the Pacific Northwest.
It will be still very easy for folks to accidentally spark a wildfire.
And one very noisy reason copperhead snakes are appearing across parts of the Southeast.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm John Rogers. Hurricane Aaron remains a dangerous Category 4 storm this morning as it passes just north of many Caribbean islands. Tropical storm warnings are in effect for the Bahamas and here in the Turks and Caicos, where you can see the strong winds blowing the palm trees. Along North Carolina's Outer Banks, mandatory evacuation orders are posted for Hatteras Island. And there won't be a direct hit, but the storm is massive, with tropical storm force winds extending up to 230 miles from the eye. And speaking of that eye, it is very well defined as you take a look there. These images were taken by hurricane hunters who flew into the storm over the weekend. And now we're watching for the potential of a second storm right behind Aaron, and it could follow a similar path. We have extensive coverage this morning, starting with Florida meteorologist Lauren Oleski.
Now we've got Hurricane Aaron. You can see it's circled there. Nice looking hurricane. And then we've got this wave that is well east in the eastern Atlantic right now. And this is going to be making its way off towards the west with a 50% development chance through the next week. This is something we need to watch just because the upper level ridge is going to be a little bit stronger. So this could actually make its way a little bit further west before curving north rather than Aaron being able to make that break north because the high pressure ridge will weaken a little bit. So it's something we'll have to keep a close eye on, not necessarily specifically for us in South Florida, but at least for the southeastern United States as a whole. We could see a depression developing there maybe by the end of this week. I'll monitor it for you. Right now, it's just something that we need to watch. So here's Aaron, Cat 4, winds at 130 miles per hour. This is going to continue to move up north. Again, the rip current risk and the surf is going to be quite rough across the eastern United States. We'll still see an increased rip current risk here for us as well in South Florida. Next name on our list is Fernand and then Gabrielle.
Well, as Lauren mentioned, the greatest impact Aaron may have on the United States is the threat of deadly rip currents along the coast. Officials issued warnings for high surf and rip currents through Wednesday here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. But the threat extends from Florida to Maine. According to the National Hurricane Center, rip currents account for 15% of all direct hurricane deaths in the U.S. Meteorologist Jennifer Collins explains why rip currents are so dangerous.
So what is a rip current? Well, it's a powerful and narrow channel of water that moves away from the coast. According to the National Weather Service, rip currents account for over 80% of rescues performed by surf beach lifeguards. If you're caught in a rip current, the most important thing is to not panic and avoid swimming against the current if you can. Instead, stay relaxed and swim sideways to the current or parallel to the shoreline until you're free. The best way to stay safe is to swim at a guarded beach and heed the advice of lifeguards. Speaking of the beach, what do all those flags mean? Well, there are 5 different flags you can see on any given day. A green flag means you have the all clear at the beach today. A yellow flag is just a slight step above that and means you want to use caution when at the beach. It's best to swim near a lifeguard during these days. Red flags are days when you just want to avoid the water as much as possible. This means dangerous water conditions exist and high surf and rip currents are likely there. Strong swimmers should stay out of the water as well. Meanwhile, a double red flag means that the water is close to swimming and it's too dangerous for swimming to go on. Finally, a purple flag means that marine life has been spotted in previous days along the coast, which could be jellyfish, sharks, or even turtles and algae.
So another thing to note about Aaron, it is one of the fastest, rapidly intensifying storms in Atlantic history. Aaron went from a Category 1 to a monster Category 5 storm in less than 24 hours. Meteorologist Phil DeCastro has more on rapid intensification.
It's not just a throwaway phrase. It has a specific definition. It's a tropical system that sees an increase of sustained winds of at least 30 knots, which is about 35 miles per hour, in 24 hours or less. Sometimes storms can do much more than this. Hurricane Wilma in 2005 went from 70 to 175 miles per hour in just 24 hours. And nearly all hurricanes that reach major hurricane status, which is Category 3 or higher, undergo at least one or two of these cycles in order to achieve that strength. But this has become more common over the last couple of decades, and that's a big problem. These rapid changes in intensity leave impacted areas less time to adequately prepare for the intensity of that given storm. It also makes these storms much harder to forecast, and obviously stronger hurricanes usually cause more damage.
Many people in Florida are still rebuilding following Hurricane Milton last year. And as 2025 heats up, it raises the question, do I need hurricane insurance? Jack Wu has more.
10 months ago, Martin County was devastated by a tornado from Hurricane Milton. Roofs were torn apart, trees lined the streets. This neighborhood was hit particularly hard, as seen by the new metal roofs on most of the homes. While some houses were fixed quickly, others still need repairs. One resident tells us it took months for his insurance company to reimburse him.
To get from their initial part where they started to the end, it took 3 months of going back and forth, and finally they wear you down. They say no, 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 and finally whatever that last dollar amount is, fine.
Losses were staggering during Hurricane Milton. The state's Office of Insurance Regulation reported over $2 billion in insured losses from Milton. Most claims were residential. There are steps you can take now to ensure your insurance payout comes faster if and when a storm does hit.
You want to make sure to pay attention to your policy that it's in force, that you pay the premiums on time, and that you want to make sure if you've been non-renewed that you're calling your agent and making sure that you've got a new policy in place.
We also invite you to check out our preview of the hurricane season, Superstorms. The 2025 hurricane season is streaming right now on our YouTube page. We examine the impacts of Helene and Milton last year and look back at Katrina 20 years after it devastated New Orleans. Despite recent rainfall that swept over portions of Washington state, the Bear Gulch fire is still burning in Olympic National Park. This morning, it's just 3% contained. Natalie Fahmy spoke with officials who warn that despite more rain in the forecast, the wildfire season is far from over.
We have people that have formed a belief that we're okay, we're almost finished. Still, we're a marathon. We still have a little ways to go.
That's George Geisler, Deputy Supervisor of Wildfire and Forest Health for the Washington Department of Natural Resources. And he says even with recent and more rain on the way, wildfire season is not over.
I know we're predicted to have some moisture coming in. That is not going to be the season-ending event. It will be still very easy for folks to accidentally spark a wildfire.
He says most wildfires are human caused, so he's asking Washingtonians to be careful for a little while longer. How is this season comparing to others, though? Geisler says the state is running below its 10-year average for wildfires this season.
And, you know, the acres burned that we've had, there's fewer than 100,000 acres that have burned across Washington state. And typically we experience, you know, by this point in time, well over 200 to 300,000 acres.
This year, he says, the department has been able to staff up to the desired number of firefighters, engines, and aircrafts needed, but says state budget cuts to the department to the tune of nearly $26 million will make that more difficult in the future.
Where the budget reductions will really start to kick in will be starting in the next year, the next fire year, you know, around March.
As for the Bear Gulch fire, Geisler says, though it's still burning, crews are doing a good job keeping it in check.
Across the Atlantic, wildfires continue to rage in Portugal. Officials say they now face very favorable conditions for fighting the flames. Hundreds of teams are deployed in several areas of the country to help contain the fires. More than 300 people are dead in Pakistan after days of heavy rain and flash floods there. Many more are still missing. The storms, which came during monsoon season, struck a mountainous region, which means there were also landslides. Coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll find out why officials in Rhode Island are warning beachgoers to stay out of the water and it has nothing to do with Aaron.
There you go, first block then.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. Cooler temperatures and low humidity. That's going to be the big weather story for your Monday. Tomorrow's highs will generally be running in the 70s. A few spots may nudge 80 degrees. A cold front moved through during the late day hours today. Notice that rapid clearing trend. Here we are 7 o'clock in the morning. Temps are starting the 50s and low 60s. Afternoon temperatures are running in the 70s. Heading into Tuesday, you will notice more clouds moving in, and there's a chance for some beneficial rainfall on Wednesday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Dubailey. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. We had a front move through the area, and as we begin your Monday, some of that will be lingering around as the front's not going to move a whole lot. Clouds to begin the day, and we will see again a little bit of sunshine, not much. It's going to be mostly cloud cover throughout the day as we will see a stray shower possible. Same for Tuesday. We'll call it partly to mostly cloudy on Tuesday. Temperatures, again, not too warm. We'll be in the low 70s for your afternoon, but Tuesday, upper 70s.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
A water spout was spotted off the coast of Garden City and Murrells Inlet in South Carolina recently. If you ever see one of these heading for shore, treat it like a tornado and find shelter. Even weak ones can cause damage. And here's a look at a weekend storm rolling into northeast Wisconsin. These snapshots are from the town of Freedom, which is southwest of Green Bay.
For more content like this, subscribe to the National Weather Desk's YouTube channel.
As we mentioned, the first hurricane of the Atlantic season is here. But did you know the hurricane season is impacted by different weather phases known as ENSO? Meteorologist Noah Hawk explains what they are and what phase we're in now.
When it comes to hurricane season, typically we talk about satellite imagery and model data to help predict what we could see in terms of our hurricane season. But we can also use climate data as well to see what could happen and whether or not we could expect an above average season. We're going to do that by looking at our El Nino Southern Oscillations, otherwise known as ENSO. This is going to be a climate pattern to help determine what some parts of the U.S. could experience. It could be drier for some months, it could be wetter, it could be cooler, and it could be warmer. But something else we're going to see is how we can determine whether or not our hurricane season will be above average or not. We're first going to start off with El Nino because there are two different phases. Now, this is going to be not as conducive for hurricanes in the Atlantic and the Gulf, and here's how. Down in South America, we're typically going to see weaker trade winds. That means that we're going to see warmer sea surface temperatures. But because the Earth loves to be within balance, that means that here in the Atlantic, it's going to have an opposite effect to balance things out. So we're going to see stronger winds, which is going to result in cooler water. This is going to happen through a process called upwelling. So that means that warmer water is going to move off to the side and allow that deeper, cooler water to move up towards the surface. And these stronger winds and cooler waters are not favorable for an above average season. Whereas a La Nina, that's going to have an opposite effect. So down in around South America, you're going to see some stronger trade winds. That's going to lead to cooler waters down over in the Pacific, but here in the Atlantic, it's going to have the opposite effect for balance. So we're going to see weaker winds and even warmer water. So that's going to be much more favorable in terms of tropical storms and eventually hurricanes. But what about right now? What sort of climate pattern are we in? Well, actually in between. We're going to be in an ENSO neutral pattern. So not necessarily in above or below average, but most models are having us track for a slightly above average remainder of the season.
Now, we also talked this morning about rip currents, but that's not the only danger facing beachgoers this time of year. In Rhode Island, some beaches are closed because of dangerous bacteria in the water. Mike Cerullo has that story.
While the waves are still crashing down at Easton's Beach, high levels of bacteria are preventing beachgoers like Lindsay DeSantis from enjoying the water.
I was hoping to go swimming, but the water does not sound delicious.
State health officials say they can't pinpoint exactly what's causing the poor water quality, only that swimming in contaminated water could get you sick with rashes, eye infections, and potentially even more severe symptoms. While the water warning is a bit of a bummer for some,
I want to get away from the city. I want to go for a swim. So I obviously got very unlucky with the timing here.
Most aren't letting it stop them from enjoying an otherwise beautiful day at the beach.
It's gorgeous. It's awesome. The weather's great. It's just great to be here.
It's not going to ruin my day, no.
Beachgoers even saved a few bucks. Because of the bad water quality, there's free parking in the main lot.
It was a very pleasant surprise.
Right now, Easton's Beach is one of 2 Rhode Island waterways closed due to high bacteria levels. The other is Connecticut Point Beach in Warwick. So far this summer, there have been 20 water warnings statewide. Most have cleared up within a week. This is Easton's first bacteria-related closure since 2022. According to data from the state, Easton's Beach has been closed more than 40 times since 2003. None of those have lasted more than 4 days.
Now, when it comes to feeling the heat, not all areas are the same. A recent study found that counties in Washington state are experiencing higher temperatures compared to others. Meteorologist Stella Sun looks into why this is happening.
In Pierce County,
we learned is that parts of the county are up to 10 degrees warmer than other parts of the county.
The reason? Some spots are like a concrete jungle.
Areas that have a lot of concrete and asphalt tend to hold that heat even into the night.
The Office of Resilience and Climate Action releasing a new urban heat study last month, finding parts of Puyallup and Sumner are 2 of the hottest places to live.
What I would call our sort of urban industrial areas and our malls are really some of the hottest areas. They have a lot of parking lots and a lot of roofs and unfortunately a lack of trees.
Things like concrete, asphalt, and buildings are called impervious surfaces, which absorb heat. It can hold on to the heat even at night. Puyallup and Sumner are also further from the Puget Sound.
So people really have trouble sleeping at night because if it was 87 at the peak of afternoon, it's only dropping down to about 77 at night. And so that makes it really hard for people to sleep. People have issues with heat stroke.
Pierce County now focusing its efforts on planting more trees and vegetation in areas that need it.
Trees have a lot of benefits. They're better for public safety, they're great for capturing water, but ultimately they provide a lot of shade, which keeps community members cool.
People in parts of South Carolina are keeping a close eye on the ground. That's because it's the time of year when copperhead snakes are very visible. As Caitlin Richard explains, it's all about a food source, cicadas.
So when these cicadas come out of the ground, they actually draw copperheads to properties. And we've had as many as 30 or 40 caught on one property just recently.
Russell Cavender is the snake chaser. His business has already removed around 80 or 90 copperheads just this year. He says that number is likely to grow as we're getting closer to mating season, which happens during 2 time periods, February to early May and late August to October. He says copperheads and venomous snakes in general love being around fresh water. In Horry County, it's everywhere. The Waccamaw River, Little Petey River, and the Petey River Basin, making it more common to encounter a copperhead.
More water you have, the more likely you are to have snakes. And the more fresh the water, spring-fed lakes, the more likely you are to have venomous snakes.
So look twice when stepping outside, as copperheads are lie-in-wait predators. Cavender says they can be hard to see since they blend right in with leaves or pine needles. but this is where they're more likely to stay.
Along the base of trees, the cicadas come out and they crawl up a tree, or they crawl up a branch, or crawl up a bush, and they shed their exoskeleton, and that smell draws those copperheads.
He says a huge misconception is that they intend to bite you and they're aggressive.
That's absolutely false. Snakes have no intention of losing that venom, wanting to strike something that's much larger than them. They want to avoid you. They're scared to death of us. We actually are a predator to them, and they know that. So they're either going to be very, very still, or they're going to run away.
Well, if you're still not quite sure how to tell the difference between a copperhead and a non-venomous snake, here's some tips for you. Like almost all venomous snakes, copperheads have a sort of diamond-shaped head. But folks, let's be honest. If you see a snake, you're not going to be studying the shape of its head. So that's where you can instead check out the shapes on the animal's body. So the easiest way to remember this is that copperheads have dark splotches on their scales that kind of look like Hershey Kisses, as you see there. Time now for a short break, but first we take in the lovely sunrise over Baltimore's Inner Harbor.
Good Monday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. We do have some scattered showers and storms trying to move their way up and pop up as we go through your day today for your Monday. That continue to drift a little bit closer towards the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley on Tuesday. And as we continue on into your Wednesday, more sunshine coming out across the plains, but everyone's still in the 80s and 90s with a few 70s the closer you are to the Great Lakes.
Good Monday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Look at your forecast across the region, and we will have a few showers to contend with. In the morning, it's mainly across North Texas. Then it's across the region, isolated to scattered chances for your Monday afternoon and Monday evening. And this active pattern going to continue throughout much of the week. You see Tuesday afternoon, another flare-up of showers and thunderstorms across the region.
Hey, good Monday morning, everybody. I'm meteorologist Stella Sun. There's a system making the beeline towards British Columbia. That's going to increase cloud cover and bring some isolated shower chances for parts of the Pacific Northwest. Meanwhile, monsoon moisture will surge its way through parts of New Mexico and towards northern Texas and in parts of the Rocky Mountain West. Highs will be climbing to the low 90s in Denver and in Albuquerque. Triple-digit heat for Las Vegas and Phoenix, and 90s for Salt Lake. That's the scene from here.
You are watching the National Weather Desk.
Humans sweat when it's hot, but corn sweats too. Salt Lake City meteorologist Lindsay Storrs took to Instagram to explain.
I have a son who currently lives in Iowa, where, you guessed it, he is surrounded by lots and lots of corn. The other day, as we were talking on the phone, we were discussing something called corn sweat. Being from Utah most of my life, where we don't grow a whole lot of corn, I wasn't super familiar with it. So here's what I found out. Corn plants release water vapor through small pores as part of their cooling and metabolic processes. In areas where there's a lot of corn, like Iowa, this means that large amounts of water vapor are released into the surrounding air. This can result in raising dew points to a very high level, making an already humid atmosphere feel downright miserable. This intense humidification of air around fields of corn is known as corn sweat. So the next time you find yourself near a large field of corn, see if you can feel the difference.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm John Rogers. Go out there and make it a great day, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.